And so now we can actually just continue to add modules to our graph here. We're creating this graph of relationships between what is used in your app and what is actually compiled. So let's create, what's it good? So we got a nav. What do we have? Like, we could say footer. What do we say? Footer.js. Right? Okay. And we can start out simple again. But let's just say our footer is going to have two parts, like a top and a bottom. And for now, we can just use top and bottom as strings. And so you can't really default export multiple values like this. I mean, sure, you could put it in an object, but that doesn't make I mean, that doesn't thrill me too much. Like, what if I only want to reuse the top part of the footer? Like, that doesn't seem likely, but then we've all come across that scenario when you're like, I don't need to really encapsulate these two, and then you end up pulling it out anyways. So we have these two pieces. And so we want to provide both of them individually to other files, right? So there's two ways that you can define this. The syntax is really flexible. So since this is already an expression right here, you could, oh my gosh, I could learn to type, export in front of them both. OK, so that's cool. So go ahead and add export to the front of them, the expressions. Now you'll notice like Webpack didn't rebuild, right? Because we haven't added anything to the graph. Like it's not connected to our entry point. So we want to actually access this behavior. So the syntax is just slightly different. Now we can use this object destructuring syntax and pull in, and you'll even see actually if you just have an empty object there and you do like from and then you provide like let's say the path, when you go back, so Webpack actually consumes at that time. And you'll see a rebuild, and you'll actually see footer there. But you'll get, if you're using VS Code, you'll actually get the names of the exports that are there. That's super valuable. I know the Angular community was super huge on like showing people that because like Angular basically super re-exports from a billion packages into a top level. And so it's like you have a billion things that you could choose to pull from like a single package. And that's kind of the same thing with Lodash, right? So awesome. Now we probably want to like log it also. So cool. Top, bottom. Great. We'll cancel our watch mode. I use Control-C on here. And so we'll just, npm run prod. Great. So now, and you can always see in the feedback that we generate, at least I think we stop at like 20 modules or something like that. You can see a very clear graph of here's your entry point. It has a dependency on index.js, which is your entry point itself. And it depends on nav.js and footer. And so you're kind of seeing there's a graph that's being built here. And we call this the dependency graph in Webpack. So if we go and just run this code in Node again, like the same script we could run. So like node dist main.js. There we go. We get all the strings there, right? And so I do want to talk about like, how do you write like declarative browser code in modules? Like one of the things that early on at first, like I kind of struggled with because it's like in modules, you don't want to have side effects, right? You want to have everything that's like anything that you access from another file should just be through exports or a default export instead of just like running a script and evaluating what kind of things are happening inside of it. And so we're going to like slowly maybe transition this over to something that is a nav element that we're going to attach to the DOM. And then we'll have a dev server that will spin up.